fire eaters of Jurian, Kalit. Sometimes in early 1965, Pakistan raised the Gibraltar Force for infiltration into Jammu and Kashmir. The force was commanded and trained by Major General Akhtar Hussain Malik, General Officer commanding 12th Infantry Division of Pakistan. The main object of this force, codenamed Operation Gibraltar, was to create conditions in Jammu and Kashmir that would cause the people of that region to rise in rebellion against India in favor of Pakistan. The Indian response to Operation Gibraltar was swift and firm. Indian government ran out of patience on the 13th of August 1965. Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri issued a stern warning to Pakistan of dire consequences, stating, "Force will be dealt with force." By the end of August, most of the infiltrators had been driven out or killed. Undeterred by the failure of Operation Gibraltar, Pakistan launched Operation Grand Slam to grab Kashmir. As a result of the Indian offensive operations in Kashmir, the President of Pakistan, in consultation with the Commander-in-Chief Pakistan Army, decided to undertake offensive operations and attack the enemy in Cham and Jurian. The Cham sector lies between the Kalit range running from west to east and the Chenab River flowing from northeast to southwest. The Chenab River is a fast-flowing river. It has presented serious problems to military planners wishing to carry out operations across it throughout the ages. From the Indian side, the terrain was unfavorable. The 180-kilometer line of communication consisted of single road from Pathankot running close to the Indian-Pak border. At some places, it was vulnerable. The bridge over the Chenab at Akhnur could not take heavy tanks. Further, River Chenab, which provided an effective right flank security to the Pakistani offensive, created a serious logistic handicap for India. While Pakistan could assemble a striking force without legal complications in its own nearby territory. Further, India had no anti-tank obstacle there, and the terrain also restricted her use of armor. Pak's plan of action. Phase 1. Destruction of the enemy west of Tavi in Lalel, Deva, Sakrana and Cham. Phase 2. Capture of Akhnur by the 10 Brigade Group. By capturing Akhnur, they meant to cut Kashmir from India. Phase 3. 102 Brigade to operate on the Akhnur, Jhangarh, Dharamsala axis, link up with 25 Brigade operating against the enemy on LOC Naushera, Dharamsala, and then move to capture Rajouri. At 0330 hours on 1st September 1965, Pakistan artillery started heavy shelling on Indian posts in the entire Cham sector, covering targets in the screen across the Manwar-Tavi along the ceasefire line, came under a massive artillery bombardment. The Indian screen provided by 191 Brigade was deployed in Cham sector during the initial thrust of Pakistan Army. The fall of Cham on the very first day desperately forced India to reinforce the threatened sector. 7 Infantry Division of Pak, comprising of 8 infantry battalions with more than 2 armoured regiments, equipped with newly acquired Patton tanks, crossed the border and launched an offensive, Operation Grand Slam, with an objective of capturing Akhnur Bridge over Chenab River to cut off supply lines between Punjab and Kashmir. The bridge, lying 40 km from the ceasefire line, connected Jammu to Rajouri and Poonch and could be vital in launching a tank thrust towards Jammu. Only 30 km from Akhnur, Cham-Jurian sector was very lightly held by only 191 Infantry Brigade, just having 4 battalions, that is, 6 Sikh Light Infantry, 15 Kumaon, 3 Mahar, 6-5 Gurkha Rifles, and squadron of 20 Lancers. Under the cover of heavy artillery support, the Pakistani forces surged forward in a 3-pronged assault. With a well-executed deception plan, Pakistan quickly gained control and compelled 191 Infantry Brigade to withdraw to Georgia. Pakistani armor had managed to penetrate 29 kilometers inside India and had reached Georgia, a village just 9.5 kilometers from Akhnoor. The fall of Cham on the very first day desperately forced India to reinforce the threatened sector. However, Pakistanis failed to exploit the initial success and completely lost momentum there by providing valuable time for 41 Mountain Brigade at Georgia, which had only one battalion, 1/8 Gurkha Rifles, to fortify its defences. 9 Mahar during that point of time was occupying defences at Nandini Hills as Corps Reserve. On 1st September at 1600 hours, 9 Mahar was ordered to mobilize from Nandini Hills to Georgia and was placed under command 41 Mountain Brigade located at Georgia. The 9th Battalion of the Mahar Regiment was raised in 1962 in the backdrop of the Sino-Indian War. The battalion was raised by our founder father, Lieutenant Colonel V.N. Limai, as a machine gun battalion. During the course of the unit's raising, it was called upon in aid to civil authorities for quelling the riots at Kolaba, where the unit performed creditably. On completion of raising, the battalion was ordered to move to Samba sector as part of 26th Infantry Division. On 30th April 1964, battalion was converted from machine gunners to a standard infantry battalion. In the meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel D.N. Singh took over the reins of the battalion from Lieutenant Colonel V.N. Limai on the 5th of October 1964. The saga of 9 Mahar in the Battle of Jurian Kalit, from Pakistani's perspective as shown in a Pak documentary movie.
भारतीयों के अहम फौजी अड्डे अखनूर की तरफ बढ़ते हुए पाकिस्तानी फौजें दरियाए तवी पार कर रही हैं। उधर पाकिस्तानी फौजें दरियाए तवी पार कर रही हैं, तो इधर जनरल ऑफिसर कमांडिंग मैदान जंग में अपने आला अफसरों से जौड़ियां के अहम कस्बे की तरफ पेशकदमी के मंसूबे पर तबादला ख्याल कर रहे हैं। पाकिस्तानी फौजों की जौड़ियां की तरफ पेशकदमी करते हुए भारतीय फौजों से ट्रोटी के मकाम पर पहली बड़ी लड़ाई हुई। काफी अरसे से भारतीय फौजों ने इस बुलंद मकाम पर अपनी मोर्चाबंदी बहुत मजबूत कर रखी थी।
The saga of epical battle of 9 Mahar, as evident from a Pakistani movie, being envious of the defensive state prepared by 9 Mahar in a span of few hours, which has been stated to be a strong defensive position made in years' time. The role of 9 Mahar was to stop the advancing enemy at Jauria Heights. Operation Riddle was the code name assigned to this operation. Battalion on reaching Jauria was tasked to take up defense in Troti Heights, which dominates the main road Cham-Jauria. Another prominent feature was the Kalit High Ground, which dominated the track from Kalit to Jauria. It provided observation and domination of the area, however it had limited deployability. Troti feature was situated 400 meters to north of main road Cham-Jauria and is nearly 800 yards by 700 yards wide. A dry nala bed running from north to south divides the feature into two halves. About 400 yards to the east of Troti feature is a small ring contour which dominates Kalit approach. 1/8 Gurkha Rifles was deployed in the western half of Troti feature and 9 Mahar was deployed in the eastern half, with 3 companies in the linear fashion and 1 company deployed in the ring contour. The main body of the battalion arrived after the midnight on the 1st and 2nd of September and had only less than 5 hours for recce and preparation of defences, as an enemy attack was expected by the first light on the 2nd of September. Brave Mahar soldiers of the battalion, exhibiting steely resolve and fortitude, worked throughout the night, defying limits of human endurance, prepared the defences and was ready to take on the enemy at first light. However, a full-fledged attack did not come at first light on the 2nd of September due to Major General Yahya Khan taking over the command of 7th Infantry Division of Pakistan Army from Major General Akhtar Hussain Malik. However, at 600 hours, 4 Pakistani Sabre jets approached the battalion defences and carried out aerial bombardment. They dived on us and rockets were released and strafing carried out. This was the first time for the battalion to be confronted with an enemy air attack. Charlie Company, located at the ring contour, had a share of the air raid. It goes to the credit of the men for having the position so well and to have remained motionless in their partially dug positions that in spite of half an hour continuous rocketing and strafing, not a single casualty was suffered by the battalion. The airstrike was an eye-opener for the troops post, which they carried out by improvement of defences and familiarizing with the area around. 7:30 hours on the 2nd of September 65. 3 recoilless guns mounted on jeeps were sent to Dhonchak along with troops of tanks to cover southern and western approaches to the brigade defended sector. The RCLs returned to battalion headquarters at 2000 hours without observing any enemy infantry or tank activity. Defense stores for the overhead shelter were scanty and local resources were negligible. But an effort was made to put some sort of a cover on medium machine gun pits and ammunition bays as a protection against air burst. 1900 hours on 2nd September 65. A protective patrol of a platoon strength under command 2nd Lieutenant Santokh Singh was sent out from Delta Company to Kalit with a view to prevent enemy columns infiltrating by night into our defended sector from that direction. The patrol returned to the base next morning on the 3rd of September at 0530 hours without any encounter with the enemy.
So, wherever all officers, they went around to each and every trench and told the boys, straighten out your grenade pins, be ready, and as and when the tank comes, don't come out, sit inside your trenches, and the moment the tank passes over your head, over the trench, come out, climb over the tank and drop the grenade in the diesel tank. The Jawans, when they were approached, I had approached few of them. साहब आप फिक्र मत करो, हम इधर से हिलेंगे ही नहीं और देखते हैं कि पाकिस्तानी टैंक कैसे ऊपर से गुजरता है.
3rd September, 0330 hours. When the tank noise was heard on the right flank moving from the direction of Kalit, it seemed that the tanks were forming up for a daylight attack on our position. Some very light were also fired onto our position by the enemy at long distance, probably to indicate the objects to the tank crew. Groups of enemy tanks, numbering 6 to 12 in each group, forming up at a number of places on northern and western flanks were observed. 0700 hours on the 3rd of September 65, enemy started shelling our position. The shelling continued intermittently for nearly 3 hours. The shelling was accurate. Luckily, there were no casualties till then. It gave an excellent opportunity to the men to get used to the realistic ground conditions. 3 RCL detachments under command Captain B.S. Rana were ordered to move to Kalit at 0800 hours. A troop of tanks was to join them by midday. The task of the party was to stay at Kalit till last and prevent enemy tanks infiltrating into our sector from that side. An armor operator was provided to this party and some anti-tank mines were laid at selected places on the Kalit approach. The battalion, however, had no news of the RCL detachments, nor were they aware that they were ordered to report to Headquarter 28th Infantry Brigade. At about 0915 hours, the enemy started shelling on defensive position with medium and heavy guns. The shelling was intense and accurate, and there seemed to be no restriction or dearth of ammunition. Under cover of artillery fire, the enemy tanks and infantry kept creeping forward, and by 1200 hours, our position was encircled from north, west, and southern directions from the concentration opposite us. It was clear that it was brigade attack support by a regiment of armor patterns. The enemy was trying hard to create a wedge in the defenses. The direction of the main attack would have depended upon where the wedge was created. It was a problem to maintain communication with the company commander from the command post. The lines were being frequently out because of the shelling, and the few sets which the unit had didn't function properly. However, full credit even under incessant artillery and tank fire goes to Subedar Butaram, JCO in charge, signal platoon, who manned the exchange himself for 24 hours without sleep or food, and personally went with the line party occasionally so that the line party does not get deterred in the incessant shelling. This process continued for nearly 5 hours until 1600 hours in the evening. The attack finally petered out. Our artillery and mortar fire were accurate. The shoot most of the time both of artillery and 3-inch mortars was taken by Captain S.V. Sathe, officer commanding Delta Company. With complete disregard for his personal safety, Captain S.V. Sathe kept directing the fire standing in an open trench which foiled many an attempt of the enemy to form up. The courage, leadership and the calmness displayed by this young officer under such trying conditions are most praiseworthy, and his example served as an inspiration to those around him. Credit also goes to Captain Vikram Chavan, officer commanding mortar platoon, whose enthusiasm, courage and control over his men were responsible for accurate and consistent mortar fire whenever and wherever it was needed, damaging enemy infantry. Our own RCL guns claimed 2 tanks and 2 were badly damaged. The credit for destroying and damaging 4 enemy tanks with 1 RCL gun goes to Nayak Ram Bilas, who was on both flanks of the company, knocked off the RCL jeep. Nayak Ram Bilas crept forward, dismounted the gun and dragged it single-handed and mounted it at a suitable place and got 2 tanks with direct hits. Credit also goes to Sepoy Bachan Singh, a rifleman in Bravo Company, who was instrumental in feeding the RCL ammunition. At this crucial juncture, the only trained person available in the commanding officer's command post at that time was the intelligence officer 2nd Lieutenant S.C. Khullar, who found that the aiming device of the gun had been destroyed and therefore by his innovative mind opened the breech, aligned the barrel by looking through it, loaded the gun and fired. While the tank was not hit, it certainly turned back and we all were thrilled. 1400 hours on 3rd September 65. Orders were received from Headquarter 41 Mountain Brigade to detach 1 company to be in location at Kalit. 1530 hours on 3rd September 65. Charlie Company under command Major I.S. Dhillon left for Kalit. The strength of the company was 3 junior commissioned officers and 68 other ranks. Lieutenant C.K. Maitra, 161 Field Regiment, who was at the artillery observation post with Charlie Company, accompanied. It was decided to withdraw the 2 RCL guns location at ring contour after last light, as they neither had adequate infantry protection in the area where they were deployed, nor were they considered to be of any use. On the main position at Troti, we had only 1 RCL gun as 3 had already been sent to Kalit. However, the movement of 5 Gurkha rifles got delayed and the presence of the company was detected by the enemy and we were surrounded. The company redeployed on a different feature. After having fought continuously for over 36 hours, the company tried to return to the battalion. En route, they were ambushed by enemy and Major I.S. Dhillon and 6 other ranks made the supreme sacrifice. In the meanwhile, Pakistan started shelling the battalion defences in Troti. At night on 3rd and 4th of September, Pakistanis launched an attack from the southwest direction. which was beaten back, forcing the Pakistani to switch their effort to eastern flank of the battalion. 4th September. On the 4th of September at 9:15 hours, Pakistanis commenced shelling with medium and heavy guns, tanks and guns mounted on tanks forming a ring. The Pakistani tanks, followed by infantry, tried their best to wedge through defences, but in vain. The gallant soldiers of the battalion, supported by mortar, recoilless and medium machine guns, fought valiantly and saved an otherwise hopeless situation. 8 successive Pakistani attacks were beaten back after a 9 hours long battle. 1700 hours on the 4th of September 1965. Orders were received from Commander 41 Mountain Brigade that we would be pulling back to Akhnur by 2000 hours in the evening as the task at Jurian was completed. This came as a surprise, and the men were hardly in a mood now to vacate a position which they had defended with such valor, determination and fortitude. Appreciations. The battalion, not even 3 years old, withstood the massive attack most admirably, and the performance given was first class. The gallant actions and indomitable spirit of the brave soldiers of 9 Mahar were admired by Brigadier M.R. Rajwade, Mahavir Chakra, Commander 41 Mountain Brigade, Major General D.B. Chopra, Mahavir Chakra, General Officer Commanding 10 Infantry Division, Lieutenant General K.S. Katoch, Mahavir Chakra, General Officer Commanding 15 Corps, and even the stubbornness and courage with which 9 Mahar fought was envied by the enemy. As stated in the book The Monsoon War and quoted, 41 Brigade withdrew to Akhnur that night, having contained the Pakistani 7 divisions advance for 48 hours, which was a task and which is performed admirably with 2 battalions, 1/8 Gurkha Rifles and 9 Mahar. Honours and awards. The brave men fought courageously and tenaciously and repulsed 8 consecutive attacks mounted with overwhelming numerical superiority and jeopardized enemy's time plan for capture of Akhnur. The delay caused by the battalion to enemy allowed 191 Infantry Brigade and Corps Reserves to prepare a formidable defence around Akhnur Bridge. The total casualties suffered by the battalion during the Pakistani attack at Troti on 4th September 1965 were 16 martyrs, 28 wounded and 25 missing. Battalion also received 1 Sena Medal, 3 mention in dispatches, and 1 Chief of the Army Staff Commendation Card for the gallant action during the battle. It is glaring to know that the formal citation for the heroic deed enacted by the gallant heroes of the battalion could not be sent, as the battalion was continuously in move and was in the process of re-orbiting from one formation to another. However, it was during a study carried out by Army Headquarters in 1975 that the gallant action of the unit came into limelight, and the only Paltan in defensive role was conferred with battle honour Jurian Kalit and theatre honour Jammu and Kashmir thereafter in the year 1975.
देश को आज न आने दे रौंदा अली को बार बार, देश को आज न आने दे रौंदा अली को बार बार। आज हिंद भी जान उठा है, उठ खड़ा जब जब महार, उठ खड़ा सैनिक महार। देश को आज न आने दी रौंदा अली को बार बार।
9th Battalion, the Mahar Regiment, created history in 1965, where the gallant officers and men of the fledgling unit took on the mighty and numerically superior enemy and fought ferociously, courageously and tenaciously against heavy odds. The raw courage and determination of the brave Mahars in the epochal Battle of Jurian Kalit earned the battalion the sobriquet of being fire eaters. The crowning glory of the unit was achieved by our brave martyrs and veterans. And this saga of courage, written with their blood and sweat, continues to inspire us till this day. Yash Siddhi. Bolo Hindustan Ki Jai.